Hello, is anybody out there? So I've got a little bit of time. I thought this morning I'd go do a little bit of Q&A if anyone's interested. Um, I do. I will be speaking with Professor Bart Kay in a couple of hours. So I thought I'd jump on here and yeah, see if anyone would like me to answer any questions. Yesterday I spoke with Dr. Vasquez. He's a really nice guy. I really like Dr. Vasquez. He's really cool. And Alia Wells on Robert Kiltz's channel. That was always fun on their Zoom call. Good people. So today let's talk about well, anything you want. Actually, if anyone watching who'd like to talk about some of the other modalities, I believe that are just as important as diet, such as breathwork. And, there are different reasons why people do breathwork as well. Hello, Josephine. Nice of you to join me. How you doing? Actually, I did write an article about this morning in my Substack. So I will post that for you so that you can see it. It does have a couple of videos attached to it of animals using breathwork in the wild. Animals do this after a traumatic experience. I mean, they use it for an adrenaline rush. You activate your your sympathetic nervous state when you're attacked and things like that. Or you have to get things done. But to calm themselves down, animals after an attack, for example, will shake and do deep breathing to calm themselves again and to get on with sort of shake off the trauma and sort of get on with their day. Whereas humans, we've been sort of, back in the day, like our ancients, actually, like more than tens of thousands of years ago, actually did the same thing. But we, in modern day society, we don't think about these things. We haven't been educated to do these things anymore. So there are different reasons why people do breath work or I think need breath work. And, for some people, they say meditation is great. And I think that a lot of people just can't meditate because they are in that sympathetic state, their sympathetic nervous state. So they're always thinking about different things, concentrating about paying the bills and stress and things like that. So it's very difficult to meditate unless you calm yourself first. So it's really good, for people who wish to do that. And I think meditation is a good practice for anyone to help bring you into that calm sort of ventral vagal state. But it's the control of your breath that controls your autonomic nervous system. So it's like the switch between those nervous states. And animals do this naturally, okay, but I think we are more consciously able to do this anytime we want to. Like, I'm not sure how animals sort of think about this sort of stuff, but we definitely can, and we definitely should. But apart from that, the physiological benefits, I think, have been absolutely amazing. When we're talking about hormone production and blood cell production and things like that as well. So, which is why I think the synergistic approach of your diet, particularly carnivore diet, meat heavy, and with ice as well. Ice baths are fantastic, or even just cold showers. You don't have to have an ice bath to do this. cold showers and the first thing in the morning, a great physiological benefit for everyone, men and female. I'm talking about when it comes to testosterone boosting and things like that, because women actually have, at any given time, they'll have more testosterone in the blood system than estrogen anyway. That's a physiological fact, and you actually produce testosterone before you start producing estrogen. So it's imperative. It's one of those things that women need to be doing as well. So I think it's very important, and or just as important for women to boost their testosterone as well as men. And this, I mean, it's the inhibitors that we have in today's society. I mean, they're everywhere. The testosterone inhibitors, like drugs that are found in the water supply in Australia, for example. Australia's water is one of the most toxic in the world. You get all kinds of birth control medications being found in the water. Even chemotherapy drugs have been found in the Australia's water supply. One of the biggest ones, though, is fluoride. They deliberately put the fluoride in there, which was recently, last year, in fact, classed as a neurotoxin even in California, California in America. Yeah, the Supreme Court ruled it as a neurotoxin. So there are a number of things, I mean, that are inhibiting people's testosterone production, or hormone production, I should say. And the problem with that, or one of the major problems, is that everyone thinks, oh, it's just testosterone, it's just testosterone. Testosterone bad, sort of thing. But without testosterone, you having a lower blood cell production. Yeah, it does smell gross, doesn't it? Australian water. Yeah, Australian water does smell gross. I agree with you, Josephine. It's toxic. It is toxic, and I think, like, at bare minimum, you need like a reverse osmosis water filter. Even that, after that, I still boil the water and I mineralize it with a good mineral salt and some iodine. But Australia's water is among the worst in the world. It is horrible stuff. And it's one of the reasons, the biggest reasons, why people's testosterone levels keep declining. I think it's also because of the comfort level too. We're not really adept at always being warm, and men in particular should be doing cold therapy, for that reason as well, for hormone production. But I think, again, with women as well, it's also very important. But the water supply in Australia, for example, is one of the biggest causes, and of course all the processed foods, because the seed oils, in particular, they are in every processed food. And apart from the other side effects like the linoleic acid and the fact that it's just toxic and rancid, the fact that it is also a xenoestrogen, and you get the xenoestrogen effect not just from processed foods or the seed oils and things like that, but also medications. And most people are on medications these days. So even chemotherapy drugs, even all the way down to like your basic painkillers like Panadol and Panadine, all these other sort of even basic pain-killing drugs, they all have a xenoestrogen effect. And including like fitness industry supplements, like supplements, people say, oh, you got to take, vitamin D and all these other different, B vitamins. It doesn't really matter what they're taking. Even protein powders, fitness industry drinks and things like that, they all have a xenoestrogen effect. and some of them are quite strong, but it's not. Even if it was any like a minor amount, it's the fact that people take these in large doses. Especially fitness industry supplements and things like that. They take an enormous amount over a period of time, and that is what's causing such a huge, I think, an epidemic in low testosterone and low hormone production. Because through testosterone stimulates. I mean, apart from the fact that you are also lowering pre-hormones like D3, which is also going to lower your immune system. But testosterone stimulates the kidneys to produce more erythropoietin, and erythropoietin, or EPO, stimulates the bone marrow to produce blood cells. And that's red blood cells, white blood cells, and your stem cells. Okay, so if you're low on these production of these blood cells and stem cells and so on, you think what that's going to do to your immune system, for one, but also trying to get oxygen to your cells. So that's a huge cause of oxidative stress, right? And then of course you got on top of that poor breathing habits, food that also produces less CO2. So you need to have a lot of CO2 in your blood for the oxygen to actually be delivered to your cells as well, because that's the signaling molecule that picks it up and drops it off. So this is the problem. Your food's not producing the CO2 levels that you need. Poor breathing's not producing the CO2 levels that you need, and you're also not getting the blood cells. You're not producing those blood cells that you need. So you can see that combination and the huge amount of oxidative stress that we get. Mandy, hello, nice of you to join us. Thank you. I was just explaining some of the reasons for oxidative stress. It's like obviously the food, the toxins, and things like that. But this is one reason why fat is so good, because you actually produce 3 times the amount of CO2, plus you produce more cholesterol, which is what testosterone is made from. So that in itself shows you that proper breathing techniques and a high-fat diet will actually reduce reactive oxygen species and reduce oxidative stress on your mitochondria, right? So and also stimulate, because it stimulates more testosterone, it's also going to stimulate more blood cell production down the line. So these are big, important sort of leaps. So you can see, like, I think that the food industry, and not just the I suppose you could only really blame corporations and government for the water supply, of course. The corporations are to blame for the food, of course, and but there are things that we can do to mitigate these, and like changing diet, for example, make it a clean, meat-heavy diet. But there are other modalities, like I was talking about, the ice or just cold showers, for example. And make sure that you are breathing efficiently, because that's at least half of the story, isn't it? Like I was talking about with the animals. Actually, I'll show you just how animals deal with. Let's see. I'll show you how animals deal with trauma and stress. Okay. So let's have a look at this polar bear. So just going to have a look at this polar bear. Was darted and tagged. Okay. Yeah.
We'll go for that one, Dennis.
Nothing happened to him, so don't stress. You know, he's fine. But this is, watch how he deals with the trauma of this interaction afterwards. Okay.
Holy snapper.
He's shaking off the trauma.
If you watch
there.
that animal after he finishes convulsing, you'll see, because he's aware of the fact that we're all around him, and it's a very stressful experience for an animal like a polar bear. Even after he settles down, and then he'll start doing a couple of deep breaths, and then he'll breathe really nicely, and it'll really... Now, look, here he goes.
So now he goes into the deep breathing.
See how he's breathing there now? You can see so that even though it looks a little unpleasant...
Now he's calming his nervous system.
It lets off all that stress, and he then is able to relax and sleep the thing off.
All right. So that's how animals deal with it. You know, they know instinctively how to deal with the trauma. You know, and it's something it's only humans and zoo animals don't do. The only two species that don't. Okay, in our life at the moment. So there's another one I've got actually with a deer. Was attacked by a cat, but it got away, and does exactly the same thing. He shakes it off, and then does some deep breathing exercise to calm their nervous system. So, like a lot of trauma that people carry around with them, the baggage that they carry around, is actually carried in their nervous system. It's carried in their body, not so much their mind. And you actually get it's actually 85% of all neural sort of signaling comes from the body to the brain, not the other way around. It's not the brain. The brain's not like the dictator. It's more like a reactive parliament. Okay, so it's more like reacting to what your body is feeling. And that is what causes a lot of stress and tension and things like that in your body. And that's why it's so important for you to activate your vagus nerve. Okay, because your vagus nerve, if you get into the ventral vagal state by calm breathing, that lets you know that you are in a safe space and you can relax, and that will relax all of the organs and the tension in your muscles and your body. Okay, because it activates your ventral vagal, your vagus nerve, and that is attached to your organs and including your heart. So it's going to lower your heart rate and also lower your blood pressure. So it's very important. Would you say that the bear realizes he's still alive and now ready to cope with the next phase of his life? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Animals is not, I mean, they have their instinctive sort of survival sort of mode. It's something that we all have. It's something that we as humans sort of think we're above, but animals, they're very intelligent that way, like emotional wise. But they know they're still alive. That's why they went into the deep breathing and the shaking it off, because he knows that he's still alive, and he knows that all he needs to do now is to calm himself, and then he can move on with the rest of his day, without carrying that stress with him. So I don't think it was an involuntary thing. I think it's more of a, okay, I'm okay. Let's breathe. Let's calm down, and then we'll take off. And I think if you want, I can show you the deer as well doing the same thing. Where are we? Impala. Okay, so have a look at this one. Does the same thing. Again, nothing happens to the impala. The cats let go of it, and yep, off he goes. Watch the belly. Watch the belly. He's going to start breathing. See that deep breathing coming in and out. Now it's shaking off the trauma. Now you might feel a bit silly sort of shaking your body like that, but actually it's a good exercise for you to do if you have had like a stressful day. Just lie down on the bed, maybe shake it off a bit, and then go into a deep breathing exercise. You'd be surprised just how much more relaxed you'll feel afterwards. So these are natural things that in the wildlife, in the animal kingdom, you will see. And up he goes, everything's good. So it's impressive. It's very impressive. And I think that I'm not sure, like I'm writing a bit of, well, doing a lot of research at the moment on the history of breathwork, because warriors, for all around the world, different cultures, from the Siberian shamans to, the Indian Kshatriya warriors, or even Genghis Khan's hordes, and even Japanese samurai, they have breathing techniques for different reasons. Before they go into battle, they would use it to sort of frenzy themselves up and get, for energy, for strength and power. Because breathwork will actually make you a lot stronger. Like before you go to the gym, for example, or you go to work, it can really help you to give hyper focus, strength, and energy for the day. And then you use certain different types of techniques throughout the battle, for example, or at work, to calm the stress, to calm the voices, and to give you confidence, and to help you focus a little bit easier. And then, of course, they have different techniques to calm themselves, just like these animals did, and to bring themselves back into a ventral vagal state where they can rest and digest. And that's where all of your recovery comes from. If you want to recover from any kind of traumatic experience, and it could be chemotherapy treatments, could be even just the gym. So you want to get into that recovery state as fast as possible so that your body can then heal and digest your food. The difference between, say, eating in a parasympathetic, eating in the sympathetic state, okay, where you're still in that fight or flight sort of mode, or battle mode, and the ventral vagal state, is you can actually lose about 50% of your nutrients from the food, right? That's a huge difference. That's half of the nutrients that you are trying to get from your food to help you aid in recovery, muscle growth, or tissue repair, and so on. You're just flushing it down the toilet because you're in that that sympathetic state where you're still in that fight or flight or stressed or whatever. So there's that in itself is a huge difference to your healing journey, or like post-workout meal, for example. So if you, I mean, the fact that people say, like, after gym, for example, they always tell you that the first thing you got to do after gym is, suck down a protein shake to help you recover and grow. It's complete. It makes no sense at all. If you are still in that sort of fight stage after the gym, you're still excited, sort of thing. You're not even getting half of what you're ingesting, so it's really not going to work. Jonathan, how you doing, my man? Good to see you, man. I get like that when the pain gets bad. Yeah, breathing helps calm the body. Exactly. Yeah, if you can activate your vagus nerve, that's actually a pain control, a pain level control, because when you get into that rest and digest sort of state, that's letting your body know that it's time. You're safe, you can relax, and it actually turns off a lot of pain receptors. So it's really good for pain control. Yeah. Helps calm the body, but if I'm outside, yeah, quicker recovery. Inside takes longer. Yeah, exactly. I do now try more to get outside to calm myself down. Yeah, good. Excellent. Yeah, sunlight and grounding helps to calm the vagus nerve as well, because like I said, the vagus nerve is pretty much just right through the body, and it is attached to everything, all of your organs, including your skin. So that contact with the ground actually will help calm your vagus nerve as well. So yeah, it's really cool. Juliet, how are you? Good. Nice of you to join us. Yeah. So I think it's really important even just in that respect, the fact that if you are in that sympathetic sort of nervous state, you're losing half the nutrients that you're trying to get from your food. And I mean, these have been proven in studies from from the last 15 years. And the difference between some say the difference between a sympathetic state and ventral vagal state digestion is about 30 to 60%. So I sort of on conservative levels say about 50%. But I mean, just think about what that could do to your recovery and to your, to all of your processes throughout the body that you require those nutrients, your hormone production, and so on. And in fact, breathwork, another avenue of producing EPO. For example, if you have low testosterone, and so low EPO, or you have kidney problems. If you have kidney trouble, you're going to have a low EPO production as well, which means low blood cells. But breathwork in itself you can stimulate hypoxia inducible factors, the proteins that will stimulate the kidneys to produce more EPO. And the difference is quite significant as well. It's like 30% more in a 3-hour period. The peak production of EPO after prolonged hypoxia inducible prolonged breath holds is about 3 hours after your last breath hold, and that peak production would be at least 30%. It can be higher in some people, and it can be lower. Just depends on how long those prolonged breath holds are. See, the longer, the longer you can hold your breath, then obviously the more HIFs you can produce, which means more EPO. Okay, so for example, I like to do on average, say 5 rounds of 3-minute breath holds. Okay, and you might think that 3 minutes is a long time holding your breath, but it's actually not that difficult. You can, and it's like anything, you do get better at this sort of thing. It's the same as fasting. You start small and you get bigger, sort of thing. But for my usual routine will start with an ice bath or cold shower, and I'll do some breath work. And in the mornings, I like to do very long, prolonged breath holds, and that gives me energy for the day. Okay, because that EPO production is boosting my blood cells. But another thing you're doing with prolonged breath holds, you're not just producing HIFs, you're also building CO2 levels. So you're going to have, at the same time, you are going to be producing more blood cells, and you're going to have more CO2 to help those blood cells carry more oxygen to your blood, to your cells, to your mitochondria. Okay, so you're going to have more oxygenated cells. Okay, so you're going to have more energy, you're going to have more power for the rest of the day. And you're also reducing reactive oxygen species and oxidative stress. Okay, so there's a real synergistic sort of mechanism going on there from just having prolonged breath holds. It's a fantastic process, and this is what, and the longer the breath hold, also, you are also going to help activate the vagus nerve, which is going to also reduce pain and also get you into that rest and digest. So depending on what the breath work you're doing, you can do this on activation, which will give you high energy, like before you go to the gym, for example, or you can do this on down regulation, which is going to bring you down into that ventral vagal state for recovery, and that's going to help you rest and digest. It's going to help. It's great before sleep, and to help induce that calm for for a stressful day, and so on and so on. So these are real. This is your biology that you can weaponize against disease or the environment around you. So these are tools. These are real tools that have a significant physiological benefit. So I really think that you just can't rely just on diet. So I think that also that process itself, I think, is one of the most vital. Okay. So there are breathwork techniques where you don't need to do prolonged breath holds. So like 4-7-8, for example, you just hold your breath for 7 seconds each breath. That can also reset your nervous system and bring you into the ventral vagal state. That's a good exercise before you sleep, for example. But for me, especially after chemotherapy, especially when your platelets I already have low platelet production, low EPO production, and low blood cell production, and so on and so on. So I incorporate a lot of prolonged breath holds. Okay. And again, like CO2 also has a lot of other benefits. It is one of the true antioxidants. It's a vasodilator. Okay, it's the signaling molecule for your hemoglobin and oxygen. If you, for example, if you wake up drowsy, that's a sign that you have low CO2 levels. Okay, so if you when you wake up in the morning, you feel drowsy, it's because the blood vessels are restricted, for one, and it's also not, without the CO2 levels, you don't have the oxygen being delivered to the cells in the brain. Okay, so you get that drowsy feeling. So increasing your CO2 levels as soon as you wake up with breath holds, for example, you then activate the vasodilator, so the blood vessels open up, they relax, and then you are also actually getting more oxygen to the cells, and then you sort of wake up and become more alert. It's also the cause of headaches. Okay, so this will, the same thing will cause headaches, drowsiness, sleepy throughout the day. For example, if you're not breathing properly, as you go, like if you're at work, it's like 10 o'clock in the morning, and you hear people all the time saying, "Oh, I feel tired, I feel sleepy." One reason is they're not breathing properly when they sleep, but they're also not breathing properly when they're awake. Right? It's about getting that CO2 levels in so that the oxygen can get to the cells, the brain cells. Okay. muscle cramps, okay, asthmatics. Asthmatics, largely it's due to the bronchioles, the muscles in the lungs can't relax. And the reason for that is low CO2 levels, okay? It's not just the fact that it's delivering oxygen to the cells, but it's also the fact that the bronchioles can't relax, and as the vasodilator, the CO2 helps them to relax, and that's how you get rid of asthma. The other one is nitric oxide is a great vasodilator as well, and helps with all of those processes. It's also an antioxidant. It also helps to enable the synapses between cells in your brain, so it helps you to think better and clearer. And you can up-regulate your production of nitric oxide by, actually, I think you can do it up to about 25 times if you do all three, because there are three ways that you can produce nitric oxide. Is sunlight stimulates your skin to produce nitric oxide, for one, and L-arginine, an amino acid you get from meat, is the most bioavailable source of nitric oxide. But in your nasal passages, okay, if you can vibrate those nasal passages by humming, you can stimulate the about 15 times more production of nitric oxide from the nasal passages. So all in all, if you are eating properly, L-arginine, for example, meat, getting sunlight, and have breathing techniques in and out through the nose with a hum, you can do it. I think you can produce up to 25 times, maybe 30 times more nitric oxide production. And of course, like there are the other more powerful sort of antioxidants, glutathione, which you get from other amino acids. Okay. And that's another thing I think when you're talking about ice, for example, there was, and I've spoken about this study before, but there was a study talking about brown fat being mobilized in cold. Brown fat actually takes up blood glucose levels out of the blood, and it'll actually take up blood glucose faster than cancers, like tumor cells can. And it's just an observation. It's just my sort of hypothesis, I guess. D3 and testosterone are fat storable hormones, okay, that may not be in your blood when you get tested, for example, but they will be in your fat cells. If you mobilize fat, brown fat in particular, through cold, say a cold shower or cold ice bath or whatever, you also will brown white fat with cold. But I think that when you mobilize that brown fat, not only are you taking up blood glucose from the blood, but you're also releasing, that is stimulating the release of D3 hormone and testosterone. Okay. So this is why I think that Europeans have never had a problem with, low levels of sunlight, and never had a problem with, D3 or testosterone, except for the last 150 years or so. Like before that, they never had any, any kind of deficiencies in D3. It was, non-existent. So I think that's one of the reasons. Now, D3 has been shown to, in the past, I think it's a few years ago now, but there was a study showing that D3 actually inhibits the uptake of glutathione or glutamine to be fermented by cancer cells or tumor cells. So when Professor Seafried says the two fermentable fuels, glutamine and glucose, right, and they reduce their glutamine intake, I don't think you really need to reduce your glutamine intake. I never did, and I still don't. As long as your D3 levels are high, if you have good D3 levels, I don't think glutamine will be a problem. You know, but that's just me. You know, I think that when you're working in a lab, you're sort of not looking at the whole big picture. You know, like they look at sort of one or two cogs in the clock without looking at the whole how they actually are working in the whole clock. You know, so let's have a look at some of these comments. Well, I have drank a protein shake for years. The moment I am doing, yes, the moment I am done my workout, I won't do that again. Yeah, I really don't think you need like protein shakes, for example. You know, they have seed oils in them, xenoestrogen, food colorings, and sweeteners. Also, xenoestrogen effect. You know, yeah, I was the same. You know, I always did that too when I was younger. But again, you know, you're wasting it anyway. I don't think these highly processed protein powders really have. I mean, they say they've got, you know, say 30 grams of protein, but how much of that do you actually absorb, right? And if you're still in that sort of fight or flight sort of sympathetic nervous state, you're really not getting anything out of it, honestly, except the xenoestrogen effect, which means lower testosterone, lower blood cells. So I'll be trying that tonight. I need sleep bad, but I lay down and eyes wide open. Takes about an hour or before I sleep. Yeah, oh my gosh. I used to be outside on the roof, relaxing, watching the stars. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, being outside at night is good. You know, the natural darkness helps your cells to produce melatonin as well. You know, as long as you know the circadian biology is really important, but breath work will help you get into that ventral vagal state where you will produce more melatonin as well as the day goes on. So that's part of it, and that's a very, very big part of it. So try a down regulating breath work. I do have one on the YouTube channel at the moment, the 4-7-8 breathing. That's one exercise. Also give it a try it with some prolonged breath holds as well. This will help bring you down into that ventral vagal state too. And I think it's really important to try and produce more CO2 before you sleep as well, because like I said, like nitric oxide and CO2 are both vasodilators. So this means that all your blood vessels are going to relax, all your muscles are going to relax, and this will help bring the tension out of your body. And like I said, the vagus nerve has 85% of all signaling goes from your body to the brain. So if you have that tension in your body, you're going to have that tension in your brain, okay, or in your mind. So that's what's going to keep you awake. All right. So if you can relax the body, you can relax the mind, and that will help you sleep a whole lot better. Okay. So produce those vasodilators, relax the muscles. Okay. And this is why a lot of people get cramps when they sleep. They get muscle cramps. It's not because of the electrolytes. It's actually because their CO2 levels are too low, and they will get muscle cramps. Okay. So they need to relax the muscles with, and all the blood vessels and so on to increase that blood flow, but also to get oxygen to the cells. Okay. Mouth tape is good, yeah. I use a chin strap actually, but I mean I have a beard, so mouth tape's not good for that. But I don't like the fact that anything that has glues and we absorb so much through our skin, especially our lips, but we absorb so much through our skin. and like glues and things like that. So I use a chin strap myself. So, but yeah, people do use mouth tape. A difference. Mouth tape for sleep is a game. Oh, it is. It is. If you can keep your mouth shut and only breathe through your nose while you're sleeping, you'll notice a huge difference in the way you sleep. Okay. You probably will find you might have trouble keeping the tape in place, but you will get used to it. The good thing is too, it's a temporary thing. You don't have to do this for the rest of your life. Okay, it's about training your nervous system or training your autonomic nervous system to breathe properly, naturally. Okay, so we never had to do that in the past. We didn't have so much stress throughout the day and so much stress, before we sleep. Fake light and all this sort of stuff. But like I said, it's about retraining your nervous system to breathe properly, permanently. Okay, so there are exercises you can do. So you say 5 minutes, 3 times a day. Breathe. Be consciously aware. Like set your alarm on your watch or your clock or your phone or whatever, and say in the morning do 5 minutes of what they call cardiac coherent breathing. That's 5 seconds in through the nose and 5 seconds out through the nose. And that's what we should be doing at rest all the time. Okay. We shouldn't be breathing more than that. So this will retrain your nervous system to realize, okay, this is how I should be breathing. It also helps to bring you into that ventral vagal state because that's the cardiac coherent breathing is about, it lets your nervous system realize that you are in that safe space. You are in that relaxed, calm state. There's nothing for you to worry about. And it will lower your heart rate, which is why it's called cardiac coherent breathing. But it will retrain you to breathe like that while you sleep as well. Okay. And if you use mouth tape for a little while, eventually you won't need it because your body will just be used to the fact that it is just breathing through the nose. Okay. And it's like anything that we learn. Like we didn't learn, like when you're a baby, you notice when a baby is breastfeeding or in the cot or anything like that, they only breathe through the nose. This is how we should be breathing. All right. We learn to mouth breathe later on, and you can unlearn that. You can retrain your nervous system to breathe only through the nose. Okay. And it does get easier as the more you do it. Right? So it's very important. It's again the breathing through the nose also produces more nitric oxide. Again, the vasodilator, especially before you sleep, getting that relaxation state and the rest and digest is really important. That's why actually walking after meals, all these people keep saying, like, if you go for a walk after your meal, this will help your digestion. Well, it's not actually the walk that's helping you. It's the fact that when you walk, you tend to naturally start a slower breathing state. Have you ever noticed that when you go for a walk and you just a nice relaxing walk, you get into a breathing rhythm? It's like a cardiac coherent breathing rhythm. And it's that breathing that signals plus you're outside, which helps, that all those signaling will actually activate your vagus nerve to get into that rest and digest state. And that's what helps the digestion. It's not the walk itself, it's the breathing. It's the slow, steady breathing that is helping your or activating your digestion, and you actually will absorb up to 50% more of your nutrients. So you don't really have to go for the walk, but it is nice if you can get outside and do some cardiac coherent breathing. it's for these down regulation sort of breath work sort of sets. It's really important also that you have a good straight posture and breathe through the diaphragm. Okay, it's the best place to breathe through. Okay, the diaphragm is like a vacuum cleaner engine, and it sucks the air into the lungs. You don't breathe, in and out through the lungs. You breathe it in through it's like a vacuum, and just sucks that in. So use your diaphragm. But there are many techniques that incorporate using the stomach or the chest, and it depends on what you're going to do. Like if you're going to do an activation, for example, you might do more chest breathing or more belly breathing. And I really like some of the techniques that Japanese use as well. Like the Japanese samurai use what's called hara. Hara literally means belly, like lower belly. And they believe that because it was in the very middle of the body, like the lower belly, it was the center of, physical, emotional, and spiritual center of gravity. Okay, so they do breathwork techniques through the belly, and very effective, very, very effective breathing techniques, which I will show you actually. One I've been using recently with some people. So, but very effective techniques. But it's really about, again, it's very similar to other techniques. It's just that you breathing through the belly. You still use prolonged breath holds. You still use nose breathing or mouth breathing, depending on activation or down regulation. And it's really about, sort of calming the nervous system as well. So. No trouble with tape. It's true. I walk every evening, gaze at the stars, gaze at the trees, hear the animals and the traffic, and find us getting away from myself and breathe more slowly. Most welcome. Most welcome. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's really just comes down to, it's all about the breathing, So, go for the walk if you want. I mean, if you need to, that's good. The walk is good, but just be mindful of the breathing, the way you breathe, because that's what's actually doing the work. Okay. And yes, I'll be outgoing later and try and find the same. Good. Excellent. Yeah. So if you have any questions on that, because let's take these videos out. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So if you have any questions on that, I mean, I do have, I have written about a lot of this on the Substack. So if you want to check that as well. Also, I've gotten into the habit of rinsing my nose every night before bed with salt water. It helps me a lot with nose breathing. Well, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is like anything, it's like muscles. If you don't use it, you do lose the ability to breathe through your nose. Okay. But you can also get that back through practice. All right. And there are some people who do have like structural, like bone problems and things that may need operations. But for the most part, if you don't use there are like 30 different reasons why you need to breathe through the nose and 0 through the mouth. Okay. But those nasal passages will close up because if you don't use them, because again, they need that vasodilation of nitric oxide, for example. And like anything, if you don't use it, you just lose the ability over years and years. You will have more resistance or more or you have a lot more trouble trying to get that started again. It's like spending years in bed and then trying to get your body moving again. It's very difficult. You have to start small and then work your way up again. So small steps. So don't be too disappointed if you have trouble breathing through the nose to start with. Okay. A lot of people do, and it's been, especially when you spent your whole life with inefficient breathing techniques. And again, it's not just about doing, say, 1 or 2 different techniques each day. It's also about being consciously aware of the way you breathe throughout your entire day. Okay. So I think it's really important for you to remind yourself, even if you have to set an alarm on your watch or your phone or something, and remind yourself to breathe properly. So, and like, especially like if you're at work or just out and about, just, you can do this anywhere. Just remind yourself to breathe in for 5 seconds, out for 5 seconds, only through the nose. No one's going to see you. No one's going to know what you're doing. So there's no need to be embarrassed about implementing a correct breathing method. Even like box breathing, you can do that anywhere. You can breathe in, hold your breath. You can do that while you're walking. You can do that while you're working. Nurses do that while they're working. Navy SEALs do box breathing while they're in combat zones to help calm their nerves and to steal their focus. You can do these techniques absolutely anywhere at any time. It's just a matter of being consciously aware of your breathing habits. And it's something that I still have to remind myself too. Like, every now and then I'll catch myself, if I'm working out in the yard or I'm, doing something, just walking and carrying myself, or I might catch myself just saying, oh, hang on a second, my jaw's relaxed and I'm sort of more mouth breathing than nose breathing. So you have to catch yourself doing that, so that you can retrain your nervous system. If people who talk a lot too, I know several people who talk a lot, and when you talk a lot, people tend to speak through or breathe through their mouth a lot too. So these are things that you need to like consciously be aware of. And most people don't really think that they're doing it, but they quite often are. So, in fact, when it comes to, I think there was, on average, like Buteyko breathing, or the like Buteyko study that was done, like, I think it was like 2018. They found that 8 in 10 of the world's population, on average, this is just an on average sort of thing. It's not like 100% accurate, but 8 in 10 people breathe, have wrong breathing, around the world. So that's 80% of the world's population just are not breathing properly. And I'd believe that, because have a look at the way people live and work today. Everyone's anxious and stressed, and everyone's there's always something going on. Especially, I think, in the younger, and I think each generation gets worse and worse as well. They get activated so easily. They get into that fight or flight. Depression is another big one. Like, depression is when you in what they call the dorsal vagal sort of phase, right? So you have like activation, where you have so you get, like, say, ventral vagals, rest and digest. Then you have the activation where it's a sympathetic sort of nervous state. So you got either fight or flight. Excuse me. But then you get into like anxiety and depression and so on. That's more dorsal vagal, and you get shut down. And that's where people just shut down, and they don't want to do anything, and they'll just stay in bed all day, sort of thing, A snake charmer catcher told me that if a snake walks over your foot, or maybe slithers over your foot, to relax and do box breathing, regime to calm the mind and the body. I haven't had the opportunity to test that yet. Yeah, well, hopefully you won't have to test that, but yeah, box breathing is a great exercise that you can do anywhere. Again, even 4-7-8 breathing, you can do that anywhere as well. No one's going to notice you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 7 seconds, and then relax for 8 seconds, right? No one's going to hear that or think anything of that. These are techniques that, like Indian pranayama sort of breathing techniques, they are like 5,000 plus years old, maybe longer, maybe tens of thousands. We don't know. This is, I think, the ancients, I think they knew this instinctively more than people do today. Whether they studied the effects as much as we do today or not, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there, but I do know that they did these techniques for different reasons, and they had all these different ceremonial sort of breathwork sessions, like shamans or Viking berserkers even. They have like swallowing the spirit breathwork sessions, like Indian shamans. You have like spirit cleansing, sweat lodge sort of breathwork techniques and sessions. They'd have this like a sauna tent sort of set up, and they would do this breathing techniques where they'd just be for hours. They're kind of like what they call a holotropic breathwork session, and these things can last for hours. Holotropic breathwork, you can do like really heavy hard work, like really hard breathing for hours. Some last up to 5 hours. Okay, so it's a huge spiritual sort of release of tension and trauma from the body, and trauma that people have been carrying around for decades. But it's serious stuff, like really. But these things have been going on for so many, thousands and thousands of years. And like I said, I don't think it was more. I think it's more of a, whether someone showed them how to do this or not, I no idea. It's just something they instinctively knew or instinctively cultivated. I think these are all practices that took a period of time and growth for them to learn, obviously. But why we haven't been educated in this way, or for so long, that's another reason, another story, I guess. But I think that breathwork, ice baths, and like sunlight, and like I said, I mean, it's these 8 science-backed habits that I've cultivated. They all work synergistically. They all work together. The carnivore diet, the breathwork, the ice and sunlight and grounding, and so on and so on. They all complement each other. And I really think that you can't just do one or the other. I think you really need to do all of it. And it's really not a big time-consuming commitment. Like 30 minutes a day. For most people can fit 30 minutes in their day. So 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night. It's not that hard. So that's where I think that it's more about lifestyle And I think that the biggest part of it is the modalities, not just the diet. Okay, like diet, you say, like I said, 30%. 30% is still a very big part. It's still a very big part of it. But I think that the most important thing is to eliminate, the heavy carbohydrates or the ultra processed foods, especially anything with seed oils and so on, or artificial colorings and flavorings and sweeteners, because of the xenoestrogen effect, because of the effect on your blood cell production and so on. Okay, so hi, Scooby the dog, how you doing? Haven't seen you for a while. Yeah, good to see you. I'm just about to finish up, actually. It's been over the hour, so if you have any questions, please fire away, and I'll try and answer any questions that you might have. But apart from that, I've just been talking for the last hour. But plenty of information there. I'm talking about breath work and ice baths and so on. I think the synergistic approach is what people should be looking towards, not just the diet is the everything and the only thing to worry about. I don't really think you should be worried about it, but implement a few things and a few other things, and you will find a huge difference. I think if you do like just a cold shower in the morning and some breath work, twice a day, and if you could correct your regular breathing, I think you can 3 times your results than you can just thinking about diet. Okay, that's a huge difference, especially like I was talking about the ventral vagal state. You're losing half the nutrients that you're eating if you are in that sympathetic state. So how much more can you increase your benefits, like recovery, your results, or like gym results or muscle growth or whatever? How much can you times the benefits? 3-4 times maybe. So you're very welcome, Mandy. Really good to see you. Yeah, I hope you sleep well. Good to see you, I say. Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Yeah, I'll try and get my lives to suit everyone's sort of time. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Let's try and get through. It's much cooler. All right, guys. Well, I'll leave it there today. After this, I will be talking to another, or I have another interview talking about this subject actually. So I will be putting that up onto Substack and to Patreon. And I'll see you all again very soon. I have been working on a lot of breathwork techniques and videos at the moment, so I will be posting some more of that soon. I've just actually had to start creating my own music to put into the breathwork session so that I can upload them without any trouble from YouTube. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Actually, I've got a really cool one. I'm because I've been following a lot of the breath techniques that ancient warriors used for both activation and down regulation. So I think you're going to find them pretty cool. So I'm sort of gearing things about that, and I'm doing all this research for a reason. So I'm putting it all into a readable format for you. And so stay tuned. All right, and I'll see you all again very soon. You're very welcome, Juliet. Hope you got some good information out of me today. Yeah, I don't have a regular schedule at the moment, but I will try and work one out actually. So make it a bit easier for everyone. Maybe I should do one morning and one at night sometime during the week. Yeah, that might make it easier. Yeah, actually. Alrighty. Yeah, yes, I've got Substack. Actually, I put a link to one of the articles up the top there. I just finished today, actually. So, yeah, go check it out. Okay. All right, guys. I'll see you all again very soon. Have a great day or night wherever you are. And I hope you have a day that means something to you. Okay.